Good morning and welcome to our New Vision parent meeting. We are very pleased that you can join us today. We hope that through the course of this meeting, you will gain an understanding of our new vision statement for ICS and will join us in embracing the exciting direction we are headed. I want to take a few minutes as we begin today to celebrate some of the exciting things that have happened in the past few months. I'll start with our re-enrollment numbers as we head into 2021-22 school year. Thanks to the hard work of Ms. Sinead Cho with marketing and Ms. Sarah Go and the entire admissions team, including Heather Zhang and Eunice Song, we had the highest re-enrollment total since 2013-14 at 81%. This number represents a significant increase from the previous 5 years and places us in an excellent position with our overall school enrollment for the 21-22 school year. Our admissions team has been quite busy. Last Saturday, we had 60 sign up for our 5th admissions virtual open house of the year. The good news is that our admissions pipeline numbers have allowed us to expand our grade 1 and grade 2 to 3 sections each for next year. Very exciting news. We also have 36 students moving into grade 6 next year, which is also exciting for us. In response to the increased demands, we have also hired a new social emotional counselor for grades 6 through 12, who will be joining Mr. Lau and Dr. Rader on the counseling team. In addition to this, we have moved Ms. Jubilee on into a full-time ELL position, as well as adding a part-time learning support position through Ms. Rachel Wurgis. We are excited about these hires that truly increase our capacity to serve our students. Finally, I want to share that we have been working as a school on our strategic plan for the next 5 to 7 years. The strategic plan committee, comprised of teachers, staff, admin, board members, and parents, have held monthly meetings led by our consultant, Ms. Kelly Jo Larson. The video that you will watch shortly explaining the video statement or the vision statement is a product of this committee's work. In May, the Strategic Planning Committee will meet again to finalize organizational outcomes for next year and draft action plans to achieve them. These outcomes will outline a strategic roadmap for how we head toward our vision during our first year of implementation and allow us to move forward as a school. Today, we will be watching together the new vision video shared out last week. Afterwards, key members of our strategic planning committee will be sharing more details on each portion of the new vision statement outlined in the video. Afterwards, the admin team will be available to answer any questions you may have during a live Q&A. Please submit any questions throughout the meeting to questions here. We will also be recording this meeting, and we ask if you could keep your audios muted and videos turned off to reduce bandwidth issues. So let's begin. Hello, my name is Dr. J.P. Rader, and I am the director here at International Community School Singapore. It is my pleasure to share with you our new vision statement for ICS as a part of the strategic plan we are setting in motion for the next 5 to 7 years. The Strategic Planning Committee has undertaken the massive task of reviewing our mission, vision, and values. The development of a new vision statement has been an integral outcome of this review. When I shared the new vision with our strategic planning team, it was decided to have a Hawaiian theme for the day to keep things interesting and to remember places we hadn't been able to travel to in recent months. As I thought about a Hawaiian theme, my mind went to the word ohana. This is an important word in Hawaiian culture, and it simply means family. Doesn't that encapsulate what ICS is?
a special community that feels like a family. Whenever we have new students join ICS, we want them to feel like they are becoming part of a bigger family that will care for them spiritually, challenge them academically, and holistically nurture them to become the men and women God desires them to be. As we explore how we can implement our new vision statement across all areas of ICS, we need to remember the firm foundation we have in our community. Much like the Hawaiians, who believe that family is central, we also understand that our community is one of the most important aspects of who we are. So let's start today with Ohana on our minds. I want to start by sharing what the visioning process looked like. An extensive review of our mission, vision, and values was undertaken by our strategic planning team. It was decided that the mission and core values would remain unchanged, but that the vision would be revised to become a statement that would reflect areas of growth and direction for the next 5 to 7 years. The strategic planning team worked diligently to share keywords and phrases that they felt should be a part of the vision statement. This was passed on to a smaller team that I formed to refine and draft the vision statement. It was important that the statement would be measurable, aspirational, and fit within the context of the mission. The final vision statement was ratified by the board, shared back to the Strategic Planning Committee, and then work was done to explore how the vision would help ICS become all that God has designed for us to be, and to see how it could be embedded throughout our organization. I want to remind everyone of our all-important mission statement. This is what we believe and exist to do. Our mission statement overarches everything that we do as a school. Simon Sinek, in his recent book, Start with a Why, states that all good organizations need to know their why. Here at ICS, this is not a question. This is our why and guides us in all our day-to-day decisions. Before I share the vision, I want to clarify the purpose of the vision and how it fits into who we are as a school. The most important idea to be grasped is that the vision exists within our mission. It is not meant to replace or supersede our mission statement. A is where we are today at ICS with all of the strategic work we have done in the past. B is our vision articulating where we want to go in the next 5 to 7 years. The box is our mission. The two statements serve different purposes. It is critical to note that our vision statement will not look like our mission statement because it exists within our mission. The vision is not intended to restate the mission. They are two separate things. One is why we exist, which at ICS is to educate minds, transform lives, to impact the world for the glory of God. Our vision will tell us where ICS is headed over the next 5 to 7 years. With that said, here is our final vision statement. Our authentic, international educational community will serve as a gateway to purpose, empowering and equipping global learners to lead positive change. I think the very first thing you will note is that there is no direct phrase dedicated to our Christian mission. The reason behind this is that the vision statement is quite different than the mission statement. Its purpose is to be aspirational in areas where ICS needs to grow. All of the recent data from our school surveys clearly indicates that we do Christian mission well here at ICS, and that it is the context from which we will launch our vision statement going forward. There are 5 key phrases in our vision. Let me share briefly each of the key phrases. The original phrase was authentic educational community, but through many discussions with our team, international was added to authentic educational community as a reference to the community, cultural awareness, and approach that flowed out of the strategic planning team's work around ICS's identity. This is recognition that we are an international school with an American curriculum, not an American school with an American curriculum. Gateway to purpose. We realized through our work as a team that there were ideas that pointed to helping a child find their God-given goals, talents, and ultimately, their future employment. As Christians, we believe that God has a unique purpose for every person. As ICS educators, we acknowledge that it is our goal to help each student get closer to theirs. The ICS mission encourages nurturing the holistic child, intentionally including the spiritual. There are a lot of schools that take care of the intellectual, social, physical, and emotional aspects of the whole child. However, ICS is best suited to help students, families, faculty, and staff find their whole purpose. Empowering and equipping. In many ways, these two words are at the heart of what we do every day at ICS. These were words that continually surfaced during our strategic planning sessions, and the visioning team felt that there was room to explore what empowering and equipping our students in the next 5 to 7 years would look like. Global was another word that appeared repeatedly in our sessions. Global is different than international in that it can be a reference to where the education is happening, the lens through which our students view the world, or where the learners come from or go to when they leave ICS. Much of the vision statement is aspirational, but I believe leading positive change lends itself to being measurable as we survey our alumni in the coming years. I believe success to us as a school would be producing students at ICS who would become leaders of positive change in their communities. So I remind you of our mission as the core of what we believe and the reason we exist to do our work, which is to educate minds and transform lives to impact the world for the glory of God. As well, our vision is where we are headed for the next 5 to 7 years, and it is to achieve the following. Our authentic international educational community will serve as a gateway to purpose, empowering and equipping global learners to lead positive change. I want to end where we started with the idea of Ohana, family. ICS embodies true community, and our hope is that our vision of creating an authentic international educational community will help launch us forward into the future as we become all that God wants us to be. Thank you.
Welcome back. We want to now take a few minutes and have various members of our strategic planning team share more deeply about the 5 key phrases embedded in the vision statement. In early February, our strategic planning team met for an envisioning day. This day was devoted to sharing the new vision statement to the committee. The committee was then divided into 5 smaller groups that circulated to different rooms that focused on the 5 key phrases. The work in each room centered on how the phrase could be cascaded throughout our organization. Each admin member or teacher that you will hear from in a few minutes served as room facilitators on Envisioning Day. They will share additional insights from those sessions as they shed light on each phrase. Ms. Sarah Majestic will kick things off for us as she shares about what authentic international educational community will look like. Sarah?
Thank you, Dr. Rader. Good morning, everyone. I'm so thankful to have you all here this morning and to be able to talk about this important issue. Authentic international educational community, and I want to emphasize international because that was something that was added during our strategic work. The words that come to mind when we talk about an authentic international educational community were genuine, relevant, diverse, worldly, inclusive of cultures, and a broad perspective. At ICS, we are aspiring for a community built on genuine relationships, relative educational experiences that offer students a global perspective, rich with cultural diversity, and an enhanced understanding of their own purpose. As Dr. Rader stated earlier in the video, we aspire for ICS to be an international school with an American curriculum, not an American school with an American curriculum. I will now go ahead and turn it over to our middle school and high school principal, Daryl Harding, to review a gateway to purpose.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So for us, Gateway to Purpose, we began unpacking what Gateway to Purpose naturally goes towards how God has created us uniquely for a specific purpose. It was something that we just shifted towards right from the beginning of our conversations. And as Dr. Rader pointed out in his message, it's the job of us, the educators here, in partnership with the parents, to guide our students to find and develop their God-given talents in order so they can achieve their goals and their future endeavors. Everything we talked about in our groups as the morning went on came back to the students. It was all about them. Every word, every sentence, and every little yellow sticky note that we created. We talked about planting seeds of purpose into the students as we go through our educational system here. That's both academically and spiritually. We talked about exposing them to unique and challenging opportunities, giving them the ability to approach the unknown, the skills and the knowledge and content to be able to tackle things that they may not have been able to tackle before without that sort of skill and knowledge base. But then also making sure that they leave here with a sense of purpose that's beyond the present, beyond the here and beyond the now, and towards the eternal, making sure that everything they do on this earth is about glorifying God, whether that's going out for human rights or environmental rights, or starting up a new business, an NGO, or working in a lab that finds a cure or be part of the steps to finding a cure. It all came back to what Dr. Rader said about the mission of the school, the why. For us, this group, the Gateway to Purpose fit really well into the why, right? It was also, in addition to the why, was the how. Here was the why as to what we do, why we do what we do, and here's the how of how we're going to get our kids to that specific place. For us, the Gateway to Purpose balanced the academic, the emotional, the social, and most importantly, the spiritual, so that we can actually truly develop here at ICS the whole child. With that being said, I'd like to take this moment to turn it over to Ms. Kara Stuckey, who will be speaking on empowering and equipping our students.
Thank you, Mr. Harding, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to take just a couple minutes to unpack what these two words mean, empower and equip. So let's look at equip first. Equip means to supply with the necessary items for a particular purpose. Equipping students is really the work that we do day to day in the classrooms and around campus of teaching and instructing students. So our new vision will act as a guide as we determine what content to focus on and which skills to prioritize in our curriculum. Technology, AI, and automation are having an impact on the skills that are needed in the future workforce. So employers are increasingly looking for higher cognitive skills, such as creativity, critical thinking, complex information processing, and then also looking for soft skills, things like interpersonal communication, leadership, diversity, cultural intelligence, empathy, and adaptability are becoming increasingly important. So these are things that we'll look at as we decide how we're going to equip our students. What about empower? What does empower mean? It means to give someone the authority or power to do something. This means that students can take ownership of their learning, becoming confident and independent in who they are. Students should not only gain the necessary knowledge and skills, but they should also develop a mindset to direct their learning and advocate for themselves. Students who are empowered are able to self-assess their progress and determine their next steps. They are really lifelong learners and have confidence in who God has created them to be. Like Dr. Rader said, these two verbs, empower and equip, are really at the heart of what we do here at ICS. All right, next I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Lance Kirshner, our elementary principal.
Thank you, Kara. And good morning, everyone. Thank you to our parents for joining us. I'd like to talk a bit more about what it means to be global learners. On our envisioning day, it was so interesting to hear the various perspectives from different groups around the school as I was facilitating this particular part of the vision and unpacking that. We had members of the facilities team, we had members from the IT team, from the admissions department, from the front office, as well as other teachers from around the school. And so hearing each group talk and really speak from their perspective what it means to develop global learners, it just continued to add layers to that. So we really created this more robust definition of what that means and what we're aspiring to. And we believe that it's really a nurturing process. It's not something that we can just tell students you need to be globally minded and just leave it at that. It really is a nurturing process throughout our students' time here at ICS, and something that we aspire to. So what are global learners? What are their characteristics? These are some things that came out of that envisioning day. First of all, global learners have an outward facing and a very expansive view of the world. So it goes beyond themselves. They learn to think beyond just themselves and their own needs and their own dreams and wishes and desires, which are important, of course. That's part of developing the purpose that we talked about earlier, but it becomes a much more outward facing and expansive view beyond that. Global learners are also able to see the interconnectedness of the world, and they respect and they celebrate the diversity of the world that God has created. Global learners are also well informed about what's happening in the world, and they're open and respectful of other perspectives. But at the same time, they also stay true to who God has created them to be. Global learners also embrace the changes and the challenges that we face in the world, and they're able to be flexible and adaptable. They're also able to access learning and grow in their learning, continue to grow in their learning despite their physical location in the world. We had a taste of that during online learning, when literally the entire world just about was having to change the way that we were learning, and global learners are able to be flexible and adaptable to that. So why is it important that we nurture all of these qualities? Why is it important that we develop global learners here at ICS? Well, it's so that all of these things can work together and allow our students to recognize the needs that they see around them and really develop a heart to go out and to serve the world in which they live. So with that being said, I'd like to pass it on to Ms. Alicia Bandy, who will talk with you more about leading positive change.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. Leading positive change, that's an exciting statement. As an educator and a teacher, it's really exciting to imagine and envision how our students in the future are going to do just that, lead positive change. In order for our students to lead positive change, our school needs to be a safe place for our students to grow and to be willing to take risks. The way we're going to develop leaders to enact positive change is to equip students with knowledge of self, knowledge of the world, and to help them be others focused. We want students who truly care about other people. So how do we do that? Knowledge of self. We want them to think about 4 questions as they think about who they are. Who are they created to be? What are their gifts? What are their talents? What are they passionate about? What do they care about? After they've really thought about those 4 things, then we can come alongside them and we can help cultivate these passions, skills, and abilities so that this knowledge of self can drive their projects inside and outside of school. Next, then, knowledge of the world. Why is that important? We want them to remember why they are learning what they are learning. We don't want them to learn just for the sake of learning. We don't want them to come and do math just to be able to do math. We want them to think about how they are learning, how what they are learning can help them engage authentically outside the 4 walls of the classroom. Lastly, we want our students to be others focused. This is where knowledge of self and knowledge of the world come together. Our students can use what they know about themselves and what they know about the world to enact positive change through the lens of empathy. We want to train them to recognize problems and initiate solutions. So in short, we want them to be difference makers now so they never have to doubt that they can be the world changers of the future. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for sharing out these critical pieces of the new vision statement for ICS. We're very excited about the future of ICS, and we hope that these presentations have been informative to our wider parent community. As mentioned, my name is Sarah Go, and I am the Director of Advancement, and I will be moderating the live Q&A portion this meeting. So let us start with the first question that came in. Thank you so much. What are the specific changes we can expect as a result of this new vision? Dr. Rader, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, we are actually still in the process of working this out. It's been a year-long process for us in terms of our strategic planning. In May, we have actually created statements, focus statements that have come out of our strategic plan and from this vision. And from those statements, we will develop our goals. So those goals will be solidified in May, and then in August, we will be rolling those out. So expect a sort of a follow-up at that time to be able to share, and I will share again out some of the focus points and the goals that we will have. As you can see by the statement, it is very aspirational. It's going to take multiple steps to achieve some of the things that the 5 people you've been listening to, right? Just before this, it's going to take multiple steps and bridges. We've called them bridges actually to get there. And so we know that it's a huge task that we're asking. Again, I use the word aspirational because we wanted it to be aspirational, something that we would be stretched to achieve in the coming years. So yes, I will be able to share a little bit more in August. At that point, it should be crystal clear what those steps will be.
And Dr. Rader, a parent wants to know, what are the plans for the school to move out of Jubilee Road?
Yeah, let me just share a little bit about that. I will say this, that we are, Ms. Sarah Majestic and I spend a great deal of time on this subject. It literally is daily, weekly, monthly. That we are thinking about this. And so please understand that this is something that's quite important to us. I heard an interesting thing yesterday. I was on a webinar and I heard an interesting statement about Singapore that I think gives you a little bit of context. Singapore was described as unsentimental pragmatism, that the way they operate. And I would say that applies to our situation here in terms of our campus and in terms of finding a new campus or a more permanent campus. We work with the EDB on this, the Economic Development Board, and we continue to make forays with them and proposals. We actually have 2 different strands that we're working on right now. One is a lot more developed than the other one, but these are things that we have been working on for quite some time. COVID has impacted that because it has slowed the process down just a little bit. And so we have to do the best that we can to try to push these initiatives. I think one thing that we've all agreed on, that right now we have a lease that goes until the beginning of 2026 for Jubilee Road. Our goals, our immediate goals right now are to increase enrollment. And I told you that we're trending in the right direction with my earlier statement. So that's great news. The other thing is that we need to be in a strong financial position. We are a nonprofit, so we that can be a challenge to a certain degree, but at the same time, we are in a good, strong financial position, and we hope to increase that and work to strengthen that as we move forward, because these are very, very important things. Anytime you're talking about a new campus, you know that you're going to have to team with a financial institution that needs to believe in you. And so we're trying to strengthen that belief, if you will. So these are things that again, we work on virtually every single day.
And since we are still looking for a new campus, while waiting, a parent wants to know, are there any plans to upgrade the facilities similar to other international schools? Sarah Majestic, would you like to take this question?
I would love to. So just to give maybe some background for people that don't know, the current site that we're on is actually 57 years old. It was a former MOE site, and it's actually owned by the Singapore government. So we actually pay rent, or we lease it from the land authority. In order for us to do any type of additions or upgrades or anything like that, we actually have to go through a process with the land authority. Up until this point, they have allowed us to make very minimal changes to the campus time that we have been on here. As our ultimate goal is to actually move to a new campus or build a new campus, any type of infrastructure improvements that we would make on our current campus would be limited, but I think our facilities department and even our teaching staff has done some amazing things in order to be able to adapt the facilities that we have to create the most optimal opportunity for learning.
Thank you, Sarah. And moving on to curriculum, Ms. Kara Stuckey, does the school plan to provide other curriculums such as the IB in the future?
Thank you for that question. At this time, we're not exploring any other types of curriculum. We are an American curriculum school, but I think as you look at this new vision and you think about all of the different discussions that you just heard from the panelists, there's definitely work that needs to be done and that we're starting. Actually, these conversations with teachers looking at curriculum is ongoing. I had a meeting yesterday just to do that very thing. And so we're looking at, how are we going to cultivate global learners? What aspects of our curriculum need to be refined or changed? We're looking at how can we more effectively equip students for the jobs of the future. And so this is work that we're doing, but we do intend to continue to be an American curriculum school, an advanced placement school. Thank you.
Kara, I'm going to just add a word there. Saturday, we actually had a session for new parents, prospective parents that was entitled IB versus AP. And I would encourage many of you to go and find that video. And Sarah, you may be able to help them with the location. But the one thing that I would add is that we are very happy with the AP program in the sense that it allows, we talked about this on Saturday a good bit, it allows us flexibility, allows our students flexibility in the courses that they choose to take in terms of the AP. It allows them to access the top universities in the sense that universities really focus on the rigor of the student. So if the student is taking the top courses at your school, that's really what they're focusing on more than the actual program. And AP certainly has been a gateway for many, many students to access top universities around the world. So I think as we look at the job market in the future, I think AP is actually positioned very well to access that job market with the choices that we have here. IB is definitely a little more locked in program. It's a quite a rigid program. Both Mr. Harding and I have worked extensively in IB in the past, and we certainly know what that looks like. It's definitely a more rigid program. And so I think our program actually allows access to job skills that could be useful in the future.
Excellent answer. And moving on to standards-based grading. What has the school done well in regards to implementing standards standards-based grading, and how can we do it better? Mr. Harding or Mr. Kirshner, would you like to take this?
Sure, I'll get us started, and then Mr. Kirshner can jump in and help me out here. So I think when I think about standards-based grading, and I think about growth mindset and having the students always think about how can I get to the next level, and then looking back at the standards and the feedback and getting that information to guide me getting to the next level. And I kind of see in the middle school and high school our teachers in the same kind of way. I see growth from the beginning of the year with a surface level understanding that was built over the past few years with the professional development, to finally having the rubber meet the road and having to refine things as we go along. And it was a rocky road in the beginning. I think a lot of teachers were stressed and frustrated. I know a lot of students were stressed and frustrated, and quite a few parents were also stressed and frustrated. But as the understanding grew and we refined things, we've gotten a lot better at standards-based grading and being able to guide the kids with feedback on formative assessments along the way towards the meeting and exemplary standards that we want to have our students at. And the great thing about it is a lot of the rocky road and the bumps at the beginning, the way standards-based is designed with that growth mindset, with the end goal in mind, with measuring where you are now as opposed to averaging where you were along the way, that growth allows for us to have a good measure of where the child is at this moment. And I can give an example of my own child in terms of the success in 6th grade with standards-based grading. He would always come back with an assessment and say, well, I know where I need to improve. And I went, well, how do you know that? Well, because my teacher showed me. My teacher said, this is the standard I need to improve. And I can go now and look in my book and look at my notes, and I can use that specific standard and what my teacher said about that standard to review and to focus and to get better. And we just had math testing. His scores have gone up. And I think that's a direct result of that sort of feedback, that ongoing feedback that's happening. Mr. Kirshner?
Thank you, Mr. Harding. I would just like to echo what Mr. Harding said about middle school and high school, that is also happening in such an incredible way in the elementary school. When you think about students being able to perceive their learning in a different way, to come at their learning in a different way, and to be able to understand really where they are as a learner and where they need to go, it sounds like such an incredibly high level thinking skill, and it really is. It sounds like something, oh, sure, middle school and high school students can do that, but probably not in elementary school. But I've seen that that's not at all the case. I think that something that we've done incredibly well in elementary school is helping students to just talk about their learning in a different way, to be able to understand what it means to be approaching a standard, or what it means to be able to master a standard. See, even students who are still developing in their understanding, to be able to understand that, but beyond that, to understand what the next steps are for them in order to help increase their understanding and move them along that continuum of proficiency. And when I think back to myself as a learner going through school with a more traditional grading system of A, B, C, D, it completely changes the conversation. What did you get on that test? Well, I studied hard, but I got a C. I guess I'll do better the next time. Or, hey, I got an A. Well, what does that really mean? How does that really describe your learning? How does that help you to set goals for the future? Whereas now I go into classes and I see students who, when they receive a test back, they see, okay, well, I was approaching on this standard, but as I look at that and I get feedback from the teacher, I understand what are the next steps that I need to do, and then they get another try. They get to reassess that standard. It's not just, well, you only get one shot at it and that's it. They're able to really grow and stretch themselves as learners, and in the end, in the long run, they actually are much more proficient than I find that they would be with a more traditional way of looking at their learning. Something that I think we can improve it, I think we've done it well, but I think we can continue to refine, is just making sure that we further refine what each descriptor is and what that means across classes, because we of course don't want mastering a standard in one class to be different than what mastering a standard looks like in a different class. We want that consistency. I think we've done a good job of developing that. Teachers have collaborated very well in that area, but that is an area that we're going to continue to refine just to further strengthen that consistency across the board.
And on that same thread, with standards-based grading, it seems that there are more focused on content and now less on meeting specific deadlines. And students given opportunity to make up with a later hard deadline. How does this teach students to respect the first deadline?
This might be a little bit more of a middle school, high school question. So I'll chime in, and then Mr. Kirshner, if you want to jump in as well, that'll work. I think when I look at, I separate these two. I see one as a behavioral piece and another one as an academic piece. And what we're doing with our standards is we're measuring the students' growth academically. And we want to separate the behavioral from the academic. So we don't want to say, well, you're a C student, you know all the math. You can simplify quadratic equations and you can solve quadratic equations and you can graph them. But because you were 3 days late, you're only a C student. That's not telling me where the student is in terms of the content. I see there needs to be a separation because one is more about going back to those interpersonal skills and those relational skills that Ms. Bandy talked about wanting to submit things at the deadline because it's the right thing to do, to build that intrinsic motivation. So because it's the right thing to do. We want a student when they, when we get our kids driving a car, we want them to obey the laws of the road because it's the right thing to do, not because they might get caught by the police, not because the consequence is going to be harsh, but because it's the right thing to do. So I see meeting deadlines and let's even say it's plagiarism as being more of a moral educational opportunity for us to teach our children rather than being punitive and pulling back grades. Mr. Kirshner, I'm not sure if you have any follow-up that you want to chime in on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Harding. I think you did a great job of explaining that. And I just like to highlight once again that we're really, when we think about our students meeting deadlines, does that mean that they're a C student, or are they, if we say they're mastering the standard, but they're not meeting deadlines, what does that really say about them as a learner? The main focus should always be on the learning, and there are different types of learning. There's the learning that we develop through character, there's the learning we develop through academics, and we of course want to focus on both. So just because we're shifting toward a standards-based approach and fully implementing that doesn't mean that we're not at the same time equally as concerned with students who are still developing in their learning when it comes to those character pieces or those pieces about responsibility, meeting deadlines, following through, doing their best work to show, to put their best foot forward whenever they turn in an assignment, and not just to do only the bare minimum. So we are working on both of those things both of those types of learning simultaneously, but we are looking at them separately and then bringing them back together to look at the student as a whole.
I would also add this, that I want to link this also to the future workplace for our students, where, as they go to university and beyond, the reality is, as I said earlier, we really don't know what kind of jobs they're necessarily going to be facing in the future. They're going to have to know what learning new skills is about. And I think our approach with standards-based actually gives them that skill set to be able to learn something new, a new skill, and be able to apply it in the workplace. There are very few workplaces where you're going to walk in and master everything the first day. So they have to have that in them, and some of it is hopefully something that they can gain during their time here at ICS.
And this is a good time to have an ad about our parent portal. If you'd like to find out more about standards-based grading or IB versus AP, please go and check out our parent portal. We have a parent educational playlist on our YouTube. You can find that in the chat coming right up. The next question, we're going to refocus back to our vision. This parent says, I love this vision. Could you please explain in simpler terms as how to achieve this vision through day-to-day school activities? Dr. Rader, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all, hopefully we can all pitch in for this, but I think, you know, as you think about the pieces of it, I think we saw some of evidence of this, some of the first steps, for instance, with, and maybe Miss Bandy can help with this, but our Week Without Walls is maybe a good example, and the SEW that we just went through, is we're trying to help the kids understand and empower them in many ways to understand what service looks like, as an example. We gave them opportunities in both SEW and Week Without Walls to see what service really looked like and to see what producing positive change would look like through their service. So there were multiple aspects to that, multiple strands to that. Not only were they physically doing things that were difficult and were serving entirely others, which is the last thing that Miss Bandy mentioned, but also they were also reflecting on that and reflecting on how they could grow as individuals through this process. So I think that's just one example. I mean, I can pitch it to some of the others to give maybe a few other examples, but that certainly jumped out at me, that's kind of the bridge as we move forward to help them understand. Down the road, that could mean that they're working, as I think Mr. Harding said, with an NGO. They may be working in a number of different settings as we go forward. So I'll let some of the others mention a few things as well, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you heard a lot of big words, right? And you heard other words, like even the words I mentioned, difference makers. That's something that we want them to practice doing now, rather they're on the basketball courts or they're thinking of their service. We don't want them to necessarily just do the easiest thing. We want them to learn how they can take risk here in this safe place at ICS. So all of these words that we heard, they're things that we safely want them to work on now, so that they can continue it into their future.
Excellent. That's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. And Sarah Majestic, what are the key indicators to say that we have successfully met our vision?
So I would love to tell you that there are key indicators that we're going to successfully meet our vision, but our vision is infinite. We can't look at it as finite, as even though we meet certain KPIs that yes, we've met our vision. It's aspirational. It's something that we are always going to continue as a school to strive for and change. What I can tell you is over the course of this last year in our strategic planning, our consultant always talks about it as year zero. So in year zero, we spent time as a committee to solidify our mission, our vision, and our values. We were very sure as a team that our mission was spot on. We were very sure as our team that our core values were exactly where we wanted them to be. We knew very early on that our vision statement needed to change. We spent a lot of time on working on that vision statement to make sure that it was aspirational, to make sure that it wasn't attainable in 1 year, in 3 years, or in 5 years. What I can tell you is from that vision work, we have put together pillars or buckets or areas that we will be developing in our first year so that we can maybe put some KPIs or some indicators together to say, yes, we know the school is now moving in the right direction. So those 8 buckets are capability building, customer experience, enrollment management, financial perspective, his mission, personal growth, personnel quality, and teaching and learning. So those are the 8 pillars that the school is going to be going forward with in terms of how do we start putting our vision in practice.
And there's a follow-up question to that. How would the students hear about the changes that will result from the new vision? JP, would you like to take this?
Yeah. This will be, as we flesh them out, this will be something that next year in year one, that we will spend time sharing with our students, our faculty, and our other stakeholders, our parents, throughout the year. So it'll be something that we will be rolling out as we progress through next year, which would be, again, year one of the process. So we're looking at things at different lengths. So some of the KPIs, some of the things that we will be looking at to achieve would be a shorter term, and then others would be in the 3-year range. Other things would be in a 5-year range. So, you know, it's difficult to just say, yeah, these are the 8 areas, and these are the 8 things that we're going to achieve, and that's it. Again, this is a very broad approach. This is a real challenge in many ways, and we wanted to make it challenging. As we also wanted to make it something that was bigger than all of us, that could outlast all of us. In truth, that doesn't mean any of us are leaving. It just simply means that we wanted it to be something that wasn't tied to individual people. It shouldn't be tied to me. It shouldn't be tied to Miss Majestic, Mr. Kirshner, any of the rest. It needs to be bigger than that. And so we're trying to work in that direction. So how we share it out, again, it's going to be more strategic in that way, as we think about ways that we can empower the students, empower the teachers, and empower the parents to join us in this journey.
And on that thread, with staff leaving, what are the plans to ensure that this vision will be passed on and grasped by the teaching faculty?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. You always, I mean, if we're doing this for 5 to 7 years, obviously we're going to have turnover in that 5 to 7 years. There's no doubt about it. But right now, for instance, in the in-service next year, when we have all of our new staff in, I will be sharing out the various strands and the goals to them, so that they will understand this is where we're going. The other thing that we've done this past year, and will continue to do in the years to come, we've actually, even though we've had 24 members of this committee that have been core members that have gone with us on this journey this whole year, we also have opened it up at various stages for other parts of our teaching and staff to come and join us in meetings, to be able to catch the vision, if you will. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago on a Monday, we had a professional development day, and we worked extensively on these things, and got a lot of great input from our staff. So I think, you know, it's going to be in different bursts, different opportunities as the year progresses, so that we'll have that continuity from year to year to year.
It also comes down to, I think, you know, knowing that this is our vision, it's important that when we are hiring, when we're interviewing candidates to replace the staff who are leaving, that's at the forefront of the people we are looking for. We're going to be looking for people who their educational background, their educational thinking, their aspirations are in line with our own vision. We don't want to bring in people who are going to be countering or rowing against the boat of the ICS vision. And so making sure that the people we do replace are replaced with those who are going to be running alongside with us.
In fact, just to add to that, the interviews that we have had this year, since we've actually developed this vision statement, we've been reading that statement to them, so that they would know, okay, this is what we're getting into. This is what you're joining.
Excellent. We're on the dot. And that's all the time that we have for the questions. Thank you so much, parents, for your insights and excellent questions. I will now invite Dr. Rader back again to close out our time for today.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for the work that you have done. If you have additional questions, and then you can direct it really to any of the people that have served on this panel. But I want to thank our speakers today, those that have come, and especially Miss Bandy. She had to pop out of her class very quickly and join us, and I thank you for that. Thank you, Sarah, for the work you did as moderator today, and for all the wonderful work that the Strategic Planning Committee has done this year. It's just incredible, the amount of work. Most of those sessions were on Friday after school and Saturdays, so the commitment level was incredible. We really can't do this without the active participation of all of our team members. I want to thank all of you parents for joining us this morning and for sending us the excellent questions. We're really excited about the future of ICS, and we value your partnership that we share with our parent community. And we hope that we certainly are pushing to make this vision statement a reality. If you have any further questions or would like to learn more, please email directorsoffice@ics.edu.sg, and I would be more than happy to connect with you. I'll close out today with a quick word of prayer. So let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this rich time together, a chance to share our vision for the coming years, and to be able to entertain some of the questions. And we pray, God, that you would be honored and have been honored through this whole process. And we pray that most of all, that we would keep you front and center in all that we do as you walk with us along this journey. We thank you for your many blessings in your precious name. Amen. Thank you very much.